Okay, so it seems that there's been even more surrounding the whole Kairyu Crocodile situation. Now, if you don't know, obviously recently there has been a new VTuber coming into the space called Kairyu Crocodile, who obviously is a part of the Beasties group, which is the lost VShojo group, which was set to debut under VShojo until obviously everything exploded. And yeah, we all know how it all ended, right? But essentially, yeah, they've decided to continue on. A lot of the Beasties members debuted a while ago, and then Karu actually joined in later on. And it's been a pretty insane ride so far. They've been doing absolutely amazingly, especially over on YouTube. They've now gained over 339,000 subscribers. And yeah, their most recent videos have over 400k in like minimum, right? Obviously, you got the most recent one being 400k, most unknown pet peeves. Then we got the nice to meet you video for the debut, and also the debut animation. So again, obviously tons of people were super excited to see her in the space and you know, talking about this, and you know, it's just great to see another VTuber kind of I guess, you know, joining in. But essentially I came across a couple of videos over on TikTok talking about the situation in terms of, you know, who she used to be, which if you don't know, she used to be Jaiden Animations. And hopefully this will be the last time that we really have to bring this up in a video, because again, this is the whole point that people are trying to get across, is that, you know, essentially, you know, this is her new persona. This is her new kind of, I guess, profile. This is her new, like, it's just a new beginning, right? And I think a lot of people, and I'm sure that Kairyu as well, prefer to obviously, you know, call her by Kairyu than by Jaiden, because obviously, you know, Jaiden is a separate channel, is a separate thing, and obviously I think both are still active as far as I know. So again, obviously people like to separate the two because, you know, that's a thing that tends to happen with VTubers, and also it is a thing that tends to happen with regular streamers as well. I think some people fail to understand that, and obviously I've seen a couple of TikToks like this one, which I kind of wanted to talk about because they have been going in about it and saying that the VTuber fan base is weird and stuff for essentially kind of protecting this. But let's get into it.
That VTubers aren't weird. Well, maybe not all VTubers. Some of them are cool, but like VTubing in general, the whole culture around it, the fans, like a lot of his stuff is really weird and so chronically online. Because if you didn't know, Jaiden Animations is now a VTuber, and you know, when I first found this out, I was like, oh cool, you know, I really rocked with her animation videos. I like.
Which also, by the way, first bit of, you know, I don't know, maybe he missed it out, maybe he missed the information out there. She was a VTuber before, like she had a VTuber model. She didn't just suddenly become a VTuber. She changed VTuber model, but okay, yeah.
Like seeing people that, you know, I support their other stuff. I like seeing them have success in other fields. And I think her new channel, where she's going by this new name for her VTuber avatar, like it has like 500,000 subscribers already. So I was like, oh cool. But because Jaiden is one of the biggest animation channels on YouTube, a lot of her fans that followed her over to being a VTuber, or, you know, are just finding out that she's you know, a VTuber now. They were making tweets and making videos being like, yo, is this Jaiden? Or being like, yo, this can't fool me. I know this is just Jaiden Animations. Which led to like a bunch of, I guess, core VTuber fans being like, yo, y'all can't call her Jaiden Animations anymore. She goes by this name. Y'all are dead naming her by calling her anything else but her VTuber name. And it's like, bro, it's really not that deep. Like, honestly, like if she doesn't want to be called Jaiden Animations or like Jaiden, just like ban it in her chat and then like problem solve. Like, I don't really understand the issue. And I've seen some people being like, oh, well, if you were really a fan of Jaiden, you would respect her wishes and call her by her VTuber name. Bro, all the tweets that I saw of people calling her Jaiden, they were just asking, like, is this Jaiden Animations? Or being like, yo, I'm sure that's Jaiden Animations. Nobody that I saw was like going to her account and being like, yo, Jaiden, we love to see that you're a VTuber. And like, they were just like.
So, yeah, obviously, that is what they had to say about this. Now, some of it, I think, can be understandable. Now, I think that essentially, you know, obviously they go into the fact of, you know, oh, there's people in the comments, you know, if they're in the comments of the chat, they could just ban them. But he thinks it's weird that some people are saying like, oh, you're dead naming them. Now, I don't think anybody's saying that they're dead naming Kairyu, right? I don't think that is the case. You know, obviously dead naming is a completely different thing for a completely different kind of topic, right? So again, I think people are just more so, you know, protective over a new, you know, persona, a new kind of piece of branding, the same that any other IRL streamer would do so if they changed their username, right? Again, it doesn't really matter whether, you know, it's a VTuber or whether it's a IRL streamer. If someone chooses to, you know, change their username, or even in VTubers cases, as it's more, I guess, prominent, change their avatars and change their stuff like that, then obviously, yes, some people are going to want them to, you know, call them by this new thing, not by their old thing that obviously they don't go by on that channel, which I think is a pretty fair enough request. Like, I'm going to be honest. I think it is pretty a fair enough request to call them by a different name if they chose to have a different name. I don't know why people find that so hard. Now, obviously, he goes into the fact about like, oh, people are asking about, you know, who she used to be and things like that, saying, oh, did this used to be Jaiden, or like, you know, whatever. People were trying to find out. I think that's fine. I don't think there's any problem with that, and I don't feel like a lot of people have a problem with that. Maybe there are some people out there, I guess, but obviously, you know, there's always going to be some bad actors within the, you know, within the group and stuff like that. I do think it's fine to be asking questions and be like, oh, is this her? Like, oh, okay, like just trying to like clarify information. I think that's fine. But I think what's not fine is obviously, you know, creating videos, creating these kind of things where essentially you're straight up just saying, hey, you know, this is Jaiden, you're only referring to her as Jaiden or Jaiden's new model or something like that, because obviously that's pretty disrespectful to a lot of the work that has been going in to obviously, you know, create this from the, you know, VTuber model artist, the animation team, to obviously Kairyu herself, right? I think that is obviously pretty disrespectful, and I think that a lot of people would not be happy with that, and I understand it. You know, I can understand why, you know, they would want to call her by a different name. For example, this video that popped up, right? Some people have been pretty angry at this because they say Jaiden Animations' new VTuber model is so awesome. This is the kind of stuff that people don't like, right? I can understand. Now, this has got 400,000 likes. I think people are just happy to see her in the space and things like that. But obviously, you know, I think this is the problem that people are having, and I can understand this problem because obviously they don't go, oh, Karu Crocodile looks so great or whatever. They actually just straight up just say, oh, this is Jaiden Animations, which again, I think trying to, you know, keep tying her to that username, keep trying to tie her to that name isn't going to help in terms of branding and everything like that. Now, obviously, if they put Karu here and then in the comments someone said, oh, is this Jaiden or something like that, then that's fine. I think that's fine, and I think that's obviously how it should be. But obviously, I think some people trying to class this as this is Jaiden Animations' new model. This isn't her new model, right? Because it's a different account, it's a different persona, it's a different entire thing, right? I think that some people, I guess, you know, are a little bit misinformed on that, and I do think, you know, it's fine. It's totally fine to be a little bit misinformed or accidentally make, you know, something or say something that isn't, you know, accepted, I guess, in a case, but I do think at the end of the day, you know, it just needs to be something that people need to get used to. And I think a lot of people, I guess, want people to get used to it early on, because obviously we don't want to have this problem about a year down the line of people still calling her this when she just wants to move on and, you know, obviously continue with this new name, model, and everything like that, which I think obviously is acceptable, right? And obviously Jaiden or Kairyu hasn't said anything about this, right? Obviously they're not going to address anything like this. The only thing they have been doing is obviously removing words from chat, which are obviously saying that. And obviously, I think that is, you know, I think that's fair enough, right? I think that is a pretty fair enough thing to do. And obviously, it does kind of show you the stance that they do have on, you know, using other name, which I don't think, you know, should be used, right? And I think that's totally acceptable. And as I said, it's one of these things that is, you know, people say it's weird, and obviously this dude was saying it's weird, the VTuber community are weird for it, but I don't think it's that weird. As I said, you know, there's like a ton of IRL streamers and things like that, like, as in, I mean, people in real life, not actual going out and about IRL streamers, but, you know, there's tons of people who, you know, change their username and want to be referred to as a different username and things like that, and obviously, you know, people have no problem with that. They're not going to be called weird for that, but obviously, as soon as it's a VTuber, and especially with a lot of the VTuber hate that has been going around recently, you know, there's been a lot of people that have been, you know, trying to purposefully, I guess, trying to push some buttons and things. And I think it is getting to a point where it is pretty ridiculous, right? Obviously, there's been some threads as well, and they're saying, why are people such idiots in regards to Kairi / her roommate? Now, obviously, I do think, like, kind of being, like, so secretive about it is a little bit weird. I'm going to be honest. But I do think that, obviously, it's okay to refer to her like a couple of times, but again, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. So again, some people do use the word her roommate, which, you know, I wouldn't personally use, but I guess some people do prefer to use it. I don't think I don't think person wants to call themselves by another name online should be this hard of a concept, considering how common that is. See musicians, trans people, and wrestlers, and even non-VTubers, YouTubers. But apparently, if you squawk like an imbecile and show on your desk about it, you can get about 55,000 likes on the hell site, with a quote retweet from someone else acting like a stuck-up hypocrite, getting an additional 14k likes. I'm pretty sure there's a new wave of VTuber fans now and aren't familiar with some of the rules of etiquette regarding past lives. They say this, and also there was a massive erosion of unspoken rules with the niche drama, especially Selengate and the whole Hollow Ian graduations. Everyone was looking for reincarnations, PLs of people with a relatively short period of time, and continuously after that, some people got used to it as to the norm. So not sure if there is anything that can be done at this point. Maybe if major VT subs started banning for it, which again, I think that at the end of the day, I don't think there should be some like big overall rule on banning people talking about past lives and things. I think you are able to have an open conversation about it. Like I said, like right now, I think it is whenever you start referring to that VTuber as that person instead of their VTuber model, that is when you kind of lose it, right? I think you're allowed to have the conversation being like, hey, their past life used to be this, and if it's in context, then sure, that makes sense. Obviously, if you're just trying to be an idiot in a comment section, be like, hey, this person used to be this person, if you didn't know, that's a little bit like, okay, I don't really get that. But I think whenever it comes to, obviously having a conversation, say there's some big drama going on, or there's a case like this, right, where I'm talking about, two personalities, right? I think it's okay, right? I think it's okay. But obviously, yeah, if you're just trying to be an idiot and trying to, I guess, be smart and be like, oh, I know who this used to be, type thing, then obviously it does get a little bit weird, right? Say it doesn't help that every single VTuber decides they personally don't care. A significant portion of the fan base decides it's a dumb corpo rule and makes assumptions on behalf of other VTubers. That's what they're saying. They say there are some people saying we need to gatekeep more because of this, and it's been only 5 days. People will either get it or they'll get bored of the joke and move on. They say two things. One, a great deal of non-corpo Western VTubers do nothing, zero kayfabe, and gladly post their face, post their other accounts. This has set up a certain expectation to that being the norm. A lot of people, especially since the peanut debacle, think VTubers are cringe and don't deserve respect. They can separate actors from their characters, but they don't. But they insist on knowing the actor inside a Mickey Mouse costume. They call wrestlers by their stage name, but when it's VTubers, it's weird. And I do think wrestlers is a very good comparison to this, right? Because obviously, wrestlers, if you refer to them by their old name, obviously, I think actually it is the best case thing, because if people will refer to them by their new name, by their new persona, by their new thing, because they will obviously create a character, right? But people will always discuss previous eras of this person, right? Of this wrestler who obviously went by different names, and they'd be like, oh, yo, do you remember whenever he was this guy and he did this? Obviously, that is a very common discussion that obviously happens in the wrestling kind of talk of things. So I think that is obviously very similar to the VTubing side of things, right? Obviously, people being like, oh, do you remember when she did this in her past life? Again, obviously, people still bring that up, and I do think that's fine. But I do think, obviously, whenever it comes to actually referring to them on the, for example, wrestling on the stage, you refer to them, when you're wrestling on the stage, you refer to them as their new name. You also refer to a VTuber by their new name when they're streaming on YouTube or Twitch or wherever they're streaming, right? Again, obviously, I think that is how it should be, and I think that a lot of people don't really understand that, right? Some people said, I've seen two references to the peanut debacle. What is it? Oh my god, people don't know about that. Say using trans people as an example is brave, seeing as how so many people have absolutely no respect for them whatsoever. I do agree, but I think our culture itself is fundamentally diseased. There's a groundwell of cruelty, and it's probably impossible to stop this from growing. So yeah, obviously that's what they have to say about it. And I do think obviously a lot of people have different kind of opinions, I guess, whenever it comes to this. And I do think that at the end of the day, yeah, you shouldn't be, obviously going out and be like, oh, this is Jaiden or whatever, and trying to, I guess, make it a big deal, especially, for stuff like this thing here, right? For example, this video, one correction I would make is just changing it to Kairyu, because again, obviously that is her new name. That is what you got to call her. Again, if you don't like that, tough, right? You're gonna have to deal with it. But I think that obviously stuff like this obviously will not help things out whenever it comes to trying to transition over to a different model and a different kind of project, I guess, which will make it easier if people just kind of called it by a new name, which I think is really not that hard. And I think a lot of people are throwing their toys out the pram with that kind of stuff. And it's just like, okay, bro, let's chill out a bit. Let's just call the VTuber by the name that they want to be and just call it a day, right? Because at the end of the day, who really cares, right? Who really cares? Obviously, they want to be called by that, so just call them by that. It's not hard. But anyways, that's essentially all I got for this video. Again, I thought it was a very interesting one. Obviously, go and support Kairyu, as she has been getting a lot of flack for a lot of this stuff as well, which I think is pretty sad to see. But again, obviously, you know, this is essentially an update to the situation. There's been so many videos coming out about this at the moment. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameSubs, use my code Kaza, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.